In a change to our regularly scheduled programming, this 58 Keys is not about Stream Decks. I had them lined up. Actually, I had the whole video done. But then Apple only goes and releases some new Macs. So the Stream Decks video will be pushed to next week then. And actually, for now, let's do all about the new Mac Mini and the new Mac Studio. There's not a lot to say about them, but there is some, and it's important. Actually, I must remember to edit this bit out. You know, because I mentioned this in the 58 Keys podcast that we're going to be doing Stream Decks. I think I mentioned it somewhere else. It's been coming for a while. It's all Darren's fault. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, I've got to cut this out, or people will just be looking at me strangely. Stranger than that. Oh, also must change that background to something more sensible. Okay, right, hang on. Back in a second. Apple has just launched two new Macs, or rather updates to two of them. The base Mac Mini, that one, and hang on, what's the opposite of a base? Kind of the top end. It's called the Mac Studio, the excellent Mac Studio. It's unusual for Apple to launch something so close to when it unveils its next iPhones. And actually, that's not just a scheduling issue. You might need to think about that. You might need to wait for the iPhone launch to see what your budget can stretch to, if you want to stretch it to anything. And budget is the thing, though. Macs now are much more expensive. It's not like they were cheap before, but they are still Macs. These new ones will still sell out because it is still the case that what Macs do is worth the price. I think right now you just need to consider a bit more carefully, although I can't exactly say Macs have ever been casual purchases, have they? It is also... It's harder to recommend upgrading from an existing Mac right now because of the prices, but there are reasons, and the prices are not going to come down. Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers. Writers like you and me who use and write on Macs and iPhones and iPads, and not to, belabor the point, when we can afford to use and write on Macs and iPhones. A few weeks ago now, Apple raised prices on just about everything except the iPhone. Increases have to be coming to the iPhone. They have to be. But there are whole new iPhones coming out next month, probably announced on September the 9th, somewhere around then. And maybe Apple will raise the cost then and find a way to make it look like that's a bonus feature. All Macs went up by at least £100 or dollars. And this week's new ones have roughly stuck to that. They're updates to ones, they've stuck to the older prices. The Mac Mini is now the same $899 that it was recently raised to, and the new Mac Studio comes in two flavors, one of which is the same £2,499 or dollars, and the other is up $200 to $5,499. Did you just answer the price on my maths? Brace yourself. Should you wish to, you could order a new Mac Studio today with the more expensive processor, with a greater amount of internal storage, and I was going to say the greater amount of memory, hold that thought, with more RAM, let's say that, more working memory, for a total of £18,299 or dollars. Actually, there's pounds in the UK, it's dollars in the US, but the dollar price doesn't include taxes, so who knows. The reason for holding on to that thought, though, and at least I didn't ask you to hold on to it for very long, is that were you in the market for the most powerful and the most capable and the most expensive Mac Studio in the world ever, you're actually a little stuck, because Apple is taking pre-orders now for all of the Mac Mini. Basically, it's taking your money today. It'll give you the device in about a month's time. It's doing that for everything except this absolute maximum configuration of the Mac Studio. Apple fairly boasted about how certain expensive Mac Studio now comes with 512 gigabytes of RAM, but then on the order page it more quietly says, no, not yet, come back in October. If you are in the market for a top of the range Mac Studio, well, actually you may well be a writer, mightn't you, but you're going to be using that Mac for a lot more than typing. In which case, well, you do you. I bought a Mac Studio, admittedly back when they were substantially cheaper, and they are fantastic machines. Best Mac I've ever had. And I even think I type faster on them. I might be trying to justify a price there, but I mean, they're certainly also brilliant for things like video and audio editing, for production, things I do, as well as writing. If you are only looking for a Mac to write on and you don't already have one, then the Mac Mini remains a good buy, even at its new £899 or dollars. There is nothing really new in either this latest Mac Mini or those latest Mac Studio. I mean, they're pretty much what they were before, but they're faster. I mean, possibly really significantly faster, actually, and they have various better options for plugging in things like displays. You can plug in 8 monitors into a Mac Studio, and there are reasons, I suppose. 8 displays, though, you've got to really want it and have a budget. There are people who haven't, people who need it, though. Actually, this is, as far as why, this is a curved display. If I had 8 of these, I think it might make a complete circle. I kind of fancy that suddenly. Put emails behind me. Anyway, because there is nothing extraordinarily new about these new Macs, it is the price you have to look at, I think. And, well, no, actually, okay. If you know, let me enthuse about the Mac Mini for a second, because it's worth it. It's still the cheapest desktop Mac you can get, and it is still a remarkably good price for what it is. No question. The Mac Mini is a superb buy for so very many people, including writers, maybe especially writers. In fact, if you don't have a Mac, look at the new Mac Mini and the MacBook Neo. Either or, but and that's the desktop Mac Mini and the laptop MacBook Neo. You will, no matter what it is, whatever computer, you'll always get more from a desktop, but then you also get more portability with a laptop. That's what you're trading off there: performance and price versus portability. But then with the laptop, with the MacBook Neo, you get the Mac, you get a trackpad, you get a display, and it's all kind of built in. It's all actually remarkably good. I mean, if you've seen PCs around the price of these models, the MacBook Neo particularly, you won't have been impressed, but you would be with the Mac. With the Mac Mini, you've got to go buy the keyboard and the trackpad or a mouse and the display. Now, if you already have those, well, you're laughing. Go buy a Mac Mini. If you haven't, then there is also the iMac, which is a desktop Mac that comes with all of this built in, particularly good screen, just built in there. The iMac hasn't been updated in a long time, though, so it's probably due for an upgrade soon. I mean, that shouldn't ever stop you buying when you need something, because there will always be a newer and better, did I just say better? A new and better model coming along. So, and then there's this. The Mac Mini is still a good buy, even at this price, as I say. And it is never going to cost less. I'm certain of this. Apple raised the prices because of the cost of components. The demand for them, particularly from AI companies and services, pushing the prices up for everybody. And at some point, this global chip shortage will be over. But you know, no company is going to drop prices back down, especially not if they manage to keep selling this stuff. So actually, maybe I'm saying you should consider a Mac Mini even at these higher prices. We could just be encouraging Apple. They need our cash. Struggling company. Let's go with this then. If you need a new Mac, the new Mac Mini is your best option for price and performance if you already have a display, keyboard and mouse or trackpad. If you don't have those, the new Mac Mini is still probably your best option. Well, certainly for performance and price, speed and all things. But there is the iMac that comes with the screen and all the rest. I said it hadn't been updated in a while. It's actually, it'll be 2 years in October that it hasn't been updated. So maybe consider waiting until October 2026, see what happens then, October. If you already have a display and all of that, plus you already have a Mac, there's just one circumstance, I think, where you should upgrade to the new models, and that's if your Mac is an Intel-based one. So how to explain it? Definitely if it's 2020 or older. There were Intel Macs after that, although actually not that many. If you're not sure what you have, you can check. Click on the Apple menu, choose about this Mac, and on the screen that appears, look for where it says chip. Now, I can't actually show you this. I can't remember actually what it will say on an Intel Mac, so on a Core Duo, something, I don't know. I don't have one anymore. Mine says Apple M4 Max on my Mac Studio. If yours says Apple and M anything, it's a newer Apple Silicon Mac. And if it doesn't, it's an older Intel Mac. And if you are on Intel Mac, upgrade now. Despite Apple having raised prices, as I seem to be obsessing over, the difference between an Intel Mac and an Apple Silicon one is staggering. I used to joke that it wasn't night and day, the difference, but that it was at least morning and evening. But you know, now I think several years into Apple Silicon, yeah, it is night and day. That's all about the Mac Mini, which is what I mostly recommend for writers. If you're sitting there waiting for my recommendation for a Mac Studio, I think you're just being nice to me, really, because with a Mac Studio at that price and what it does, you kind of know if you need one. In which case you also know if the price is worth it to you. So it's weird, isn't it? The Mac Studio is like an easier decision because it costs so much. It costs so much that you have to have a specific reason to get it instead of another Mac, a cheaper Mac. The new Mac Mini is so good for its price, and it's so great for so many things, for so many people, it's a harder choice. Plus, one last thing. Yes, the prices are higher. You may have picked up on me saying that, and they're not going to drop down. But it is true that the reason is this shortage of components. It is true that demand has forced prices up. And even so, the new Mac Mini and the new Mac Studio pretty much guaranteed to sell out quickly. And you can say that because they always do, but these days, right now, there's also the fact that it is highly likely Apple has not been able to make as many of them as usual. I mean, again, shortages. So demand will still be there and supply may not be. Consequently, if you are in the market for a Mac, go get one now. That's it for this edition of 58 Keys. Thank you very much for watching. Now, take care of yourself and your budget. Write something on a Mac or anything, well, nearly anything. Yeah, and I will see you soon.